It was one of tearing his red.
Any other questions? I'll come forward to the light.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, between the different versions of, you know, the legendary version and his version of what John Henry did, it's really unrealistic that, you know, a man freed would come back and, you know, redeem himself. I was just kind of thinking, what were you thinking that you wanted, Chris?
Oh.
That you wanted people really left with? Like, was it you wanted people left with like a man's own integrity, his own sense of freedom, his own, like, you know, what
Yeah, it's a good question. This is interesting because it brings back, John was my high school English teacher in the 12th grade. And in the 12th grade, we read an essay by Camus called The Myth of Sisyphus. The Myth of Sisyphus is about this guy who is tormented for eternity by having to push this rock up a hill, and every time he gets the rock up the hill, the rock falls back down. And the Myth of Sisyphus, Camus' essay about it, is about how he envies Sisyphus and how Sisyphus must actually be happy. Because by embracing what it is that he has to do, he is given a purpose that he can never not fulfill. So that every time he gets that rock up to the top of the hill, he's won. And then if he was ever completed, he'd have to go think of something else to do. But Sisyphus doesn't have to worry about that. Sisyphus doesn't have to worry about anything at all except the job that is right in front of him. And that in a way, this whole play is a way of saying that there is no way to escape the pressures that force you to do whatever that job is in front of you. You can't do it even when you're dead. There's still work to be done. And so in a way, John Henry is the same kind of Sisyphus figure where the lesson, and it's not really a lesson because it's not a fable, but what we learn from it is that there is no way to escape that. But that if you go back to that work by yourself, you can still be free. That freedom is not escaping, but the choice to do the thing. I think that's
great.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like I got to put a tail on everything.
Please do.
What I discovered about a week ago is that when John Henry went free, he lost his mind. In here, he's under control. He knows his routine. There's not a rock he can't conquer. It feels good. Even with the chains, he's in control. As you said, even the guards, they have a certain authority, but they don't dictate to him the way they do other people. But when he went free, you know, he had to come back, kill somebody, talk to a dirty man digging his grave in the mountains, and have a vision of the judge who sent him here. Like that was freedom in the physical sense, but mentally it's like, this is too much. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any purpose. So I'm left to like my own demise, if you will. So, and when the judge was predicting my demise, I knew it, I believed it, and I was trying to fight it, but it's like, without my purpose and without my work, that's all I'm going to do is slowly die from those particles of rocks that have been permeating in my lungs for the last 5 years. So it was more free to come back in the drill as whole than it was to be free.
One thing it always reminded me of, in Greek mythology, there's like the saying, whom the gods cannot destroy, they drive mad.
Yeah.
And just in that sense, John Henry is a very classical heroic figure, because it's as if, I mean, he's the hero of the piece, and the gods drove him mad before he came back. And he had to be driven mad so he can come back and fulfill his destiny.
Well, and in a way, sort of his return to the sort of basicness of what it is that he's doing is what stops him from being mad.
Yeah.
That instead of driving him mad, he says, no, because I know what I'm good at.
Right.
You know?
And I want to say, if you go to our production blog, there's an essay being posted about this tomorrow morning, about this very issue. This is the big thing for me in the play. I kept hammering these guys over and over about freedom and what freedom means. And we make a huge mistake in our culture because we think freedom is running away. We don't think freedom is going to do something else. Freedom is only valuable if it's freedom for something. And John Henry discovers, and Laz happens to him, and Laz is acting during the sequence when he's back as the dead Laz. And I've said this to you and I say it out loud now, unbelievably brilliant.
Yeah.
And part of what he does is he runs around this stage like a crazy person because he's lost. He's not free. He is lost. And that's what happens to people who run away. They get lost. But instead, John Henry, when he runs away, he goes mad and he's lost. And then he knows where he is and he finds himself. And then he lets that man find himself too. And he lets that man, and that's the core, and he lets this guy find himself by saying that freedom isn't the answer, that it's being free and choosing. And that's what Chris says, choosing that activity. And it's really a powerful thing. Certainly go to the production blog. You can read all of the brilliance everyone's written, because almost everyone in this group has written something to publish for us, and including that essay too. So, stuff there. Any other questions? Take just a couple more, because I can sense people getting tired.
Can next time, can James sit down with everybody else so that we can see him and not forget he's up there?
They told me I couldn't sit on the cot.
I know, that's true.
Man, ain't nobody want to see him. Look at it.
You did a brilliant job in your transition
Absolutely.
from being James to being the guard, because initially I didn't know you were playing two roles, you know, until I saw you under the hat, and I was like, oh yeah, that is the same guy. But the characters were pretty similar, I think, kind of in spirit, and so, but for you, how difficult was the transition? Not at all.
He's a professional.
And I don't want you to be forgotten, so you need to sit along with
All right, well, we want to thank you all for your attendance tonight.